Start with Jesse Pierre, one of our most consistent and awesome reporters. Jesse, it's good to have you in-house. I know you were out in the cold all week and all weekend, but transit is really changing around the city of Charlotte, right? And we've talked about the transit authority, where they're headed. There's been some big updates in that where people have been able to weigh in terms of modernization of payments, trying to keep things more safe. What does that look like? Because you just were at a meeting today, and it sounds like they have some ideas in this area.
Right. So this is after an 18-month FAIR study, and CATS did their first public meeting today. They have another one later at 5 o'clock in person, and kind of just breaking down some of the recommendations that they have. And, they talked about a lot of different things, but I think the biggest change is how riders are going to pay and validate their trip. Okay. So they plan to have these validators that are going to be placed. So for on the light rail, it'll be placed on the platforms, and you have to validate your trip before you get on.
Right.
There's like a certain area, a fair area where you would have to have it validated. So there's a couple of things. One, they're introducing new ways to pay. You can still use your CATS app to pay, but they're also adding now a new smart card where kind of like what they have in New York where you can reload it or forth. So you can create an account and then you'll be able to load money in that card and use it and so forth. And you could also use your credit card or debit card. And so the good thing about the smart card, credit card, debit card, you literally will tap the validator and that will take care of your fare. Okay. So that you can pay for it, but you could also use the validator to also, activate or validate your fare. So gotcha. I don't know if that was clear.
Right.
And then you also can use your mobile wallet. Everyone's using their phones to pay for everything now anyways. And so you don't have to go to extra means. You literally put that on the mobile app and on the validator, and that will take care of your fare.
Okay.
So that you can go in. And so again, it's just kind of like one of the things they're looking to really modernize the system.
Would that be on the train or the bus, or would that be outside, stationary thing?
So it would be stationary.
Okay.
And
sorry to interrupt you.
No, not at all. I was looking to see if I can pull up what they call the exact space. So okay. You would be so they would be within the paid fare zone, and to be in that paid fare zone, you have to make sure to tap your card or smart card or device. Credit card to that validator, and that would mean you have paid. Now, I asked them all. Well, not I didn't ask, but one of the questions was about enforcement, right? Yeah. So once you tap it, it'll light up green, and that will be a signal for CAT staff to know, oh, this person paid and is validated or got their fare to be taking the trip.
Okay.
Now, with that, they've also talked about so many different things in the future when it comes to using technology, using AI, using cameras to really, again, continue to enforce and reduce fare evasion.
Yeah.
And so this, we're looking at this as the very early steps. This is right now just the proposals too.
Yeah.
And so it still needs to go through a board. It still needs to be approved before it's even enforced or out there active and so forth, and that wouldn't happen until next year.
Okay, you bring up a good point. I feel like there's a fine line to where how many cameras we want, being able to access facial recognition software, which it sounds like in a lot of spaces that's where AI is going to be heading, and I don't know if they're specifically looking at that facial recognition software, but it kind of leads to this conversation, right, of how safe do we need to be? Because we had discussed really off air for a second that there are incidents even at closed, what did you call them? Remind me, closed transit.
I would just say ours is an open system.
So a closed system. Right, like the L, like New York, right? And so is that what you think is going to be coming, that type of form of AI? Have they really specified that?
It's not even really about faces, right? When it comes to that, it really comes to, the electronics, right? And data and, and I'm pretty sure there's going to be so much more work to come on this and how they would be used. But, if you've paid, maybe your phone's green or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
It just, or if you do make it across, maybe it'll be red or something to show
you're not
this
supposed
person,
to be there.
Right, you're not supposed to be there. There's nothing validated. Because when I think of going to the airport, right, and you pay for your parking, you just have your mobile app. I don't necessarily scan anything.
True.
But I just open it on my email and it's already going up,
right?
So it's already connected to my thing to let them know,
right? And
maybe it's my license, who knows? But I always think of things are moving so fast because of technology and just how things are being, moving together. But
Right.
in general, the idea is to just make this more simplified, to modernize it. And
Yeah.
I think that, when we're looking at it 10 years later, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're going to be so much further along even with that. And right now, this is literally just like giving the public information, letting the public weigh in on all of this. And, we'll just kind of see what next steps are taken from here,
I guess my only other thing is, did anybody bring up about hardening the system, like closing the system like we talked about? Because that would be an immense amount of investment, I know, right? It wouldn't be easy to do. I don't know exactly how many stops they have around the city. I'm sure it's hundreds. But I mean, that's not easy to do, especially when you started with an open system. To then put the infrastructure in place would be massive. I would imagine hundreds of millions of dollars. Has anybody talked about that? I mean, is that the next option potentially, or?
A closed system has been discussed in the past, especially following those high-profile incidents.
Right.
It just, to my understanding, was not just feasible in general.
Yeah.
And also, the open system is also kind of like something, you might not think about it, but like, the way it's open, it's also more enjoyable in I don't know how to explain. I'm trying to think of the way.
It just feels free.
It feels free,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And it's the way it looks, everything about it, the design and so forth.
Yeah.
And so then you think of adding all these bars and it just, and then really, you're thinking of, it's already an open system. It's above ground. It's hard to close something like this above ground.
Yeah.
In New York, again, it's all down below. You know what I mean? So you already have to go down some stairs into a facility-ish to hop on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so then you have gates. But how would you? I can't even think of an open system that is closed.
Yeah, you'd have to raise.
Above
You probably have to
ground.
raise a lot of the platforms, right? That'd be the first thing. So that gates. But that's what I'm saying. Like it just it probably doesn't make sense. I just wondered if that was something that was being brought up again. But yeah, it probably isn't feasible, especially for the size of Charlotte, where there's a number of other things they want to tackle and invest in.
Sure.
Awesome, Jesse. Anything else that I asked you that you wanted to elaborate on or talk about at all?
No. Again, there's a meeting that's happening in person at 5:00, and there's a series of different meetings. And again, this will go in front of a board at some point, and then next year is really the time frame they're looking to start really making active movements on some of these recommendations.
Okay. Tonight's meeting at 5 is
At the Government Center.
Government Center. So if you want to show up 5 p.m. in person, give your thoughts and, of course, ideas as well. We'd love to hear them, but watch Jesse's story tonight. That'll be at 5 as well, right?
Yes, 5:00 and 6:00. And again,
5:00.
there's so many people who probably do have ideas and questions and concerns or so forth. So
Right.
it's important to, go ahead and go to these meetings, and
Yes.
just
Yeah,
share
let
your
them know.
input because,
Right.
one, you might learn something, right? Because some people might have a point that say like, why can't we do a closed system? Well, you won't know if you don't go and,
Right.
learn,
Right.
what, their thoughts and feelings are about it. And
Yeah.
so I think the more input, the better the system can come out. You know what I mean?
Agreed. Yeah, and especially for those of us who actually use the system, right? Like I think I've said this to other people that work in our space.
Yeah.
That when I lived in Pineville, right, there's a station on South Boulevard, one last station. It just doesn't come far enough, right? So there's a lot of things that people probably want to see that maybe they aren't aware of. So that's a great point. But yes, go to the meeting, Government Center, 5 p.m. Jesse, thank you for your time. We're going to take a quick 2-minute break and come right back.